Hi, I'm Dave Smith of Police One, and this is Roll Call Reality Training. Now today we have a unique video from Hawthorne, California that addresses a couple of important issues in the aftermath of the protests following the Michael Brown shooting after he attempted to disarm an officer. Now, two Hawthorne officers respond to an aggressive panhandler call. Now the suspect has a prior history of violence and he refuses to present ID to the officers. Now a physical altercation begins. Now watch from one of the onlookers' perspectives on their camera phone, and remember this, the onlooker is also a provoker.
Oh! Don't shoot me! This nigga crazy! Damn, this nigga really taking this shit, my nigga! Fuck the police! Fuck the police! Fuck the police! Get that nigga TV! Get him! Get him TV! Get him! Get him! Fuck the police! Fuck the police! Fuck him! Fuck him! Nigga, they over there shooting black people, nigga! Fuck the police!
Wow, tough situation. You have a boxing suspect who's highly mobile and you got a hostile audience. The suspect isn't trying to get away. He's perfectly happy to stay there and punch the officers. Now you've had two taser deployments that failed due to the suspect's clothing. Now both officers get smacked pretty good. And let's see how this ends when a commander arrives and the suspect, now shirtless, gets tasered again. Now once the suspect is controlled and in custody, both officers were taken to the hospital and fortunately only suffered minor injuries. But why did they box a boxer? Why didn't they escalate? Now certainly the taser wasn't their only less lethal option, and what I want you to talk about with your teammates is what would you do in this situation? All right, let's take some important lessons. First, don't box. Boxing is a sport and none of you have time to train for it, and most of you don't have gloves for boxing in your vehicle. Now I did once work with a Golden Gloves champion who ended up in the hospital with a badly injured hand. It seems he had the suspect's tooth embedded in the bone of his hand. Ouch, real infection issues. Tremendous puncher. The problem is boxing is not a particularly good control technique. Coordinate your moves. Now we see two officers. That creates a team. When you got backup, you're a team. So coordinate. Don't let the suspect punch you, then punch the other. He doesn't get to take turns. And both our younger brothers in this video fail to close on the suspect when he turns to assault the other officer. Now what about your other intermediate tools? Do you have a baton? Do you have your OC spray? Have you been trained at hard empty hand techniques? Not the joint control techniques, but how to penetrate a striking suspect, close in on a suspect, stunning techniques. Now when I talked to the Hawthorne Police Department, they indicated the officers involved had not escalated their use of force, partly because of the bystanders involved. They had anxiety. Now in this aftermath of the Michael Brown incident and the incident in New York, I want you to forget about these public bystander issues. Your responsibility is to control a suspect as quickly as possible. Now that's how you protect yourself and your partner. You protect the public, and ironically, that's how you protect the suspect as well. Overwhelming quick force appropriately applied at the appropriate level and quickly detain and control the suspect. That's a critical issue. Now another issue, finally, let's talk about that failure of your equipment. Now I'm not talking about losing a confrontation, I'm talking about being ready to either have a piece of equipment or a technique fail. Practice failure drills with your equipment just like you do with your firearm. Now a good coach teaches an athlete in competition that most moves and techniques don't give you immediate victory over an opponent, but it often sets your opponent up for your next move or your next technique. That's the same thing in a physical confrontation. When you make a move, that will open the suspect, you block that suspect, then it opens him up for another move. You got to be ready for these things. Most of you have an athletic background, and if not, it doesn't matter. Train for your techniques, mentally rehearse with your equipment. And remember, you've got to train like you want to play because you're going to play like you train. So play seriously, practice these techniques. Now finally, I want to thank the Hawthorne Police Department for their cooperation in this program, and I want to give a final salute to the courage of our two brothers in this video. Taking punches, getting knocked down, and coming back at the suspect again and again shows true warrior courage, and I thank them for that example. So talk about this with your team, mentally rehearse how you'd win this confrontation,